This question will be for Bill Keating, and it's from Patrick Brennan in Hull. And the question is, do you support President Obama's economic policies completely? If not, what would you change?
Well, I think one of the things that, hindsight is 20/20, first of all. One of the things I didn't agree with at the time was when they did the immediate funding, stimulus funding, there was a difference of opinion, throwing monies quickly into the economy or trying to target it. I thought at the time throwing it quickly wouldn't do the job that they had expected. Number one, would have been wasteful. And I think it was. I think a more targeted approach would have been better. An approach where there was investment in necessary infrastructure, so there would be a spin-off effect and greater job creation as well. I also don't agree as well in the reaction actually of everyone. When Wall Street, through their greed, created a system that crippled ourselves, took away savings from people through their 401ks or other investment, college savings. When that occurred and we were going to try to deal with the Wall Street problem, the first thing was to bail them out. And that bailout led to billions of dollars for CEOs, and we found out later money's going overseas to hedge funds. That was our bailout. I would have dealt with the regulating of the Wall Street investments first, and then I would have dealt with any kind of necessary bailout. But those are two areas that I disagree.
Well, you know, somewhat similar, but a little slightly different angle here. You know, clearly, you know, when Obama inherited a financial catastrophe, and of course, Republican critics have forgotten that fairly quickly, and sort of dumped it all in his lap, and he, of course, has struggled with it. And you know, this was a near worldwide economic collapse. And I don't think we haven't seen anything like this in our lifetimes, and it harkens back to the Great Depression in the 1930s. So I think we have to be somewhat understanding of really the enormous problem that he faced when he arrived in the White House. And I think what's also been forgotten is the initial response of the federal government was undertaken by the Bush administration. You know, it's that famous, was it Paulson, one-page, two-page memorandum to spend, I don't know, several $1 trillion to bail out our financial institutions. And of course the Congress balked when that understandably balked. In the end, it would have been, I think, better if the president had extracted more concessions early on from the banks, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think it could wait until we did comprehensive financial reform. I mean, if the banking system went down, and it was on the edge of going down, we would have all gone down with it. And clearly, to build a bill as complex as the financial reform bill that Barney Frank has shepherded through the Congress, a very complicated, complex bill, that took time. There was no way you were going to be able to do that on the back of an envelope. And Obama just didn't have time. He did the best he could in the circumstances. And if I'm going to be pointing the finger at anyone, it's going to be at the guys who were in the White House before him, not since he got there.
One thing that's interesting to remember, too, in that whole issue with the Wall Street regulation is this. During the time they're trying to get a bill out, our senator held up that bill. Our junior senator held up that bill. And he said it would be a tax increase for taxpayers, and he couldn't support it. I think it was akin to $15.9 billion. Now, in any agency in Massachusetts, any lending institution, you pay for your own regulations. And it was targeted to the same kind of money CEOs would get. But that's what's wrong in Washington, why we need a change, where someone can hold the bill up and say that this was a tax increase, and then pass that money on to the CEOs for another bonus. Now you know the difference between a Republican and a Democrat.
Let me kind of reinforce that a little bit. I served with Scott Brown, and I know him fairly well. And I recall him saying during that campaign that this stimulus spending didn't create a single job. not a single job. And of course, I'm chairman of education in the state senate. And I was involved in ed reform and a whole variety of other issues. And I know how many teaching jobs across the Commonwealth were saved by those federal dollars. But for that, the cuts in local aid would have been unbelievable. And we all recognize that, apparently, except Senator Brown.